No one expected House Draethe and House Selene to work together. For centuries, they stood at opposite ends of Atavus philosophy. Draethe with their stone archives, cold analysis, and obsession with ancient patterns. Selene with their dreaming oracles, psychic attunement, and their unnervingly intimate understanding of the subconscious realms. They viewed one another with distrust, disdain, contempt even. But P0 changed everything. After the escape of the progenitor, after the first resonance shockwaves rippled across Europe and then the world, both houses began to feel the same strange pressure. It wasn't physical. It wasn't psychic. It was something deeper, something old, something the Concord would eventually call the mother tongue frequency. And then came the other phenomenon, the dreams. Selene operatives began collapsing into shared nightmares that were not nightmares at all, but windows into something moving beneath consciousness itself, the dream convergence. These two events, biological resonance and shared dream intrusion, should have belonged to two different worlds, but they didn't. They were two halves of the same voice, and Draethe was the first to acknowledge it. During a Shadow Concord session, Varn and Varkas bickered about border failures and containment strategies. Darby D talked about satellite gaps and signal loss. It was then, at the very end of the meeting, that Draethe's silent seat spoke a sentence that froze the entire room. What does she say in the dreams? The Selene delegation stared at Draethe in disbelief. No one else in the Concord even knew dreams were involved. Something inside Draethe already knew, or remembered. That was the moment the alliance began. The Selene Dreamworkers came forward first. They described the convergence, shared imagery, paralysis, a presence in the dark, a voice, soft but immense, older than language itself. Draethe listened without blinking. They didn't accuse Selene of mysticism. They didn't scoff at visions or dream stuff. Instead, they asked about phonetic structure. And something extraordinary happened. The sketches, the sounds, the half-remembered syllables from the dreams, they matched Draethe's pre-linguistic inscriptions, patterns carved into bloodstone tablets thousands of years old. Selene's nightmares were speaking in a language Draethe had been trying to decode for centuries. The two houses built a joint hypothesis. The mother tongue frequency was the carrier signal, biological, measurable, physical. The dream convergence was the message encoded within it. No wonder neither house could make sense of their half alone. To test the theory, Draethe took an unprecedented step. They invited Selene into one of their most sacred sites. Deep beneath an abandoned monastery, beneath layers of stone, bone, and ritual geometry, sat the bilateral chamber, a room designed by early Atavus ancestors to enhance pattern perception. The Selene Dreamworkers entered the chamber and lay down inside its mineral rings. Draethe tuned low-amplitude resonance through concealed channels. For 3 hours, the chamber was silent. Then the Selene Dreamworkers began whispering in unison. Not in Romanian, or Greek, or Arabic, or any modern language, but in something older, wet, heavy, a tongue shaped before humanity existed. Draethe recognized the structure immediately. It matched the deepest levels of their mother tongue tablets. The Dreamworkers repeated a phrase, a fragment translated only roughly. She gathers the lost pieces. It was the first direct message attributed to P0. The next discovery came by accident. After waking from the chamber's dream trance, a Selene operative began sketching. Her hand moved before her thoughts did, drawing symbols she had never seen before. Draethe recoiled. The glyphs were identical to carvings found on the earliest Atavus burial stones, symbols believed to mark activation sites for pre-classical carriers. Selene had never studied Draethe's archives. She had no way of knowing any of this. Draethe called the phenomenon the mnemonic bloom, ancestral memory bleeding into waking consciousness through the dream convergence channel. It meant P0 wasn't merely stirring carriers. She was transmitting memory. Not metaphor, not hallucination, memory. Together, Draethe and Selene began assembling a larger picture, one far more ominous than anything the Concord imagined. The frequency was rising. The dreams were synchronizing. The mnemonic bloom was spreading. P0's influence no longer required proximity. When the two houses compared their data, they reached the same conclusion. The world was approaching a cycle threshold. Draethe described it mathematically, a topological shift in the global carrier network. Selene described it emotionally, the night of returning memory. Both descriptions pointed to the same outcome, a moment where Atavus expression would stop being an individual event and become environmental, a moment where the boundary between Atavus and human would begin to dissolve, a moment where P0's message would no longer be transmitted, but fully understood. The other houses would eventually learn of this cooperation, and when they did, they were terrified. Varn feared Draethe and Selene together could predict the next resonance event before it happened. Varkas feared this alliance undermined the doctrine of blood sovereignty. Darby D feared something worse, that Draethe and Selene might already understand P0, and that the Concord was months, maybe weeks, behind. But for now, the alliance remains quiet, secret, growing, because Draethe and Selene know something the others don't. P0 is not wandering, she is not fleeing, she is preparing, and the frequency and the dream are converging.